person loves you except you. That is the first message coming through here. And wow, this feels like something that has been visible to almost everyone around you. Maybe in the way this person looks at you, the way they act around you, the way their energy shifts when you are near, or the way they can never stay truly neutral where you are concerned. I feel like other people may have noticed this long before you let yourself fully believe it. And maybe part of that is because you have tried to be realistic or protective of your heart, or maybe you convinced yourself that if they really felt that much, they would have said something more direct by now. But I do not feel this person has been easy to read in a normal way. I feel they show through action, atmosphere, attention, and emotional pull more than clean words. So let's go ahead and see where you are in this connection right now. What is your overall energy here? Here's the Four of Cups. So yes, I feel there has been some doubt in you, some emotional hesitation in you, and almost a tendency to question what is right in front of you. It is not that you feel nothing. I think you feel a lot, but I also think you have not fully trusted what your own heart has been picking up. For some of you, this came from mixed timing. For others, it came from this person being too subtle, too guarded, or too indirect. And for others, I feel you may have talked yourself out of it because believing they love you would mean having to face what that changes. And where is this person right now? Here's the King of Cups. Wow. Okay. So yes, this person has deep feelings here, but they keep a lid on them. This is not someone empty. This is someone full. But I feel they have been containing, editing, measuring, and trying not to spill all of what they really feel. I feel this person carries a lot in silence. And that is why the people around you may sense it more easily than you do, because from the outside, their love may actually be more obvious than it feels from inside your own uncertainty. People can see the tenderness, the protectiveness, the attention, and the emotional weight this person has around you. And what is going on for both of you right now? Here is the Two of Cups. Beautiful. So yes, this is mutual. That is one of the strongest things coming through already. This is not only one person projecting feeling where there is none. There is a living current here between you two, and I feel both hearts have been participating in it. What else for you? Here is disbelief. Yes, that is exactly what I feel. It is like spirit is showing me that your main block right now is not lack of emotion. It is lack of full permission to believe what you are sensing. And for them, here is devotion. Wow. Yes. So I do feel this person is much more emotionally attached than maybe you have allowed yourself to recognize. They may not be loud with it, but they are consistent with it. And sometimes devotion shows most clearly in quiet ways for both of you. Here's recognition. Beautiful. So I feel the bond itself has already been recognized on a soul level. Now, the question is when the mind and the spoken world fully catch up. All right, two cards coming out for you. Here is caution and here is longing. Yes, I feel part of you has been careful for good reason, but part of you has also wanted more proof, more clarity, more certainty before opening yourself fully to what this is for them. Here is restraint. Yes, this person has been holding back, not because they do not feel, because they feel so much that they have been trying to keep it manageable. And for both of you, here is turning point. Wow, so yes, this is not meant to stay in silent understanding forever. Something here is moving toward greater acknowledgement. Now here is your next energy. A personal issue reaches resolution. Wow, that fits perfectly. Let's clarify that. Here's the Page of Cups. Beautiful. So yes, I do feel something softer, sweeter, and more emotionally direct is trying to come through. And I feel you have changed too, because with the Four of Cups, yes, you have questioned, doubted, and maybe hesitated to receive what was there. But I also feel your heart is becoming more ready to let the truth in. So the main energy coming through is this. The love has been there. The signs have been there. The emotional evidence has been there. But your spirit is only now starting to let itself absorb what other people may have already seen clearly. This person loves you more deeply than you think, and I feel the next phase is less about whether that is true and more about how openly it begins to show itself from here. And I feel your heart is finally close to trusting what has been trying to reach it all along. Okay, let's keep going because I want to look at some more details here. What are you thinking overall about this person and this connection right now? Here is the Ace of Pentacles, the Three of Wands, and the Sunday. Wow, so even if you have tried to stay grounded, part of you still sees genuine potential here. The Ace of Pentacles says you sense something real. The Three of Wands says you feel there is more ahead than what has already unfolded. And the Sunday says this person still brings warmth into your inner world, even if you have tried to downplay that. So your thoughts are not cold toward them. They are careful, yes, but there is still light in them. I feel you have been standing in that place between realism and hope, wanting something more tangible before letting your heart fully relax into what it already knows. And what are they thinking about you right now? Here is the Emperor, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Knight of Pentacles. Wow. Okay, so this person is not thinking in a careless way. They are thinking seriously. The Emperor says they want to appear composed, controlled, and intentional. The Seven of Pentacles says they know something meaningful has been growing here. And the Knight of Pentacles says they are thinking about real steps, not just imaginary ones. I feel this person may move slower than your heart would prefer, but I do not think they are shallow. I think they are trying to understand how to approach this in a way that feels honorable, steady, and not reckless. What are you feeling overall about them right now? Here is the Star, the Eight of Cups, and the Lovers. Wow, that is powerful because I feel your heart has not stopped hoping, but it has also tried to protect itself. The Star says there is still tenderness in you around this. The Eight of Cups says you have also tried to create emotional distance when things felt too unclear. And the Lover says the bond itself has remained very alive. That is why this has been hard to categorize, because part of you has tried to step back, but another part of you still feels the connection very deeply. And I feel that deep feeling is what keeps pulling your attention back, even when your mind tries to convince you there is nothing definite here. And how are they feeling about you right now? Here is the Queen of Wands, the Hermit, and the Four of Pentacles. Wow, so first of all, I feel they are strongly drawn to you. They see you as radiant, magnetic, and very difficult to ignore. But with the Hermit, they have been carrying these feelings inward. And with the Four of Pentacles, yes, there has been strong holding back. Let's clarify that Four of Pentacles, here's the Nine of Swords. Yes, so I feel this person has been overthinking, worrying, and tightening up around what they feel for you. Maybe because they do not know how you would receive it. Maybe because they know it is deeper than they originally expected, but I do feel the holding back has cost them peace. And one more, here is the Ace of Wands. Beautiful. So the attraction is still active, the spark is alive, and the desire to move closer is getting harder for them to manage quietly. So let's look at your intentions toward them right now. Here is the Nine of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and Judgment. Wow. Yes, you still care, but you are not as unguarded as before. The Nine of Wands says you have learned to protect your emotional space. The Queen of Cups says your heart is still open in a real way, and Judgment says you know this connection is approaching a revealing moment. Your intention is not to beg for clarity. Your intention is to let the truth show itself and then respond honestly to what is there. That is a very different energy from chasing, and I feel it is the right one for you. And what are their intentions toward you right now? Here is the King of Cups, the Moon, the World, and the High Priestess. Wow, okay. So their intention is deeply emotional, but it is still moving through fear and inner mystery. The King of Cups says the feeling is mature and real. The Moon says they still have private uncertainty to work through. The World says something cannot remain unfinished much longer. And the High Priestess says this has been intuitive for them too. So yes, I do feel they intend to come nearer in some way, but it feels like someone gathering courage first so that what they do next feels true to the depth of what is already in them. What exactly has been blocking them? Here's the Ace of Pentacles. Yes, they have been afraid of what a real beginning would mean, because once this becomes actual, it changes things. Let's get another block. Here is second house. Yes. So comfort, security, habits, routine, and attachment to what already feels established have all been slowing them down. But the key thing here is that the old pace is not working anymore. The emotion has become too visible, too strong, and too undeniable for that. All right, let's look at the shared field between you now, because this is where the reading begins showing what the connection itself is doing. How are you both thinking in this connection? Here is the Two of Cups. Wow. So yes, there is shared awareness here. Both of you know this carries feeling. Both of you know this has meaning. And even if neither side has translated everything into direct language yet, the Two of Cups tells me the emotional exchange is very real. This is not one person imagining depth while the other stands untouched. There is response here. There is a meeting point here. There is a sense that the heart on one side has already been answered by the heart on the other, even if much of that answering has happened quietly. And how are you both feeling? Here is the Nine of Swords. Yes, that makes sense, because a bond like this can stir up pressure, vulnerability, and a lot of inner noise. For you, it may have shown up as wondering whether to believe what you sensed. For them, it may have shown up as feeling the weight of loving someone and not knowing how to carry that openly. Let's clarify that Nine of Swords. Here is the Three of Pentacles. So the real challenge has not been whether the feelings exist. The real challenge has been how to bring this into ordinary life, how to make it practical, and how to give shape to something that already has emotional depth. Because that is what I keep feeling here. The love is not the missing piece, the form is the missing piece. The two of you have already felt something meaningful, but now the connection wants expression, steadiness, and a way to be lived rather than only sensed. So let's look at where this connection is headed in the near future. Here is the Hierophant, the Page of Cups, and the Star. Wow, okay. With the Hierophant, the next phase wants honesty, maturity, and clear intention. This does not feel like something that wants to remain vague. The Page of Cups says a tender message, a softer opening, or an emotional offering is trying to come forward. And the Star brings healing, hope, and a sense of gentle relief. I really like that combination because it feels like the air begins to clear. The heart begins to breathe, and the uncertainty begins giving way to something that feels more human, more understandable, and more direct. Let's get another card for the near future. Here's the Eight of Wands. Wow, yes, movement. Action communication beginning to flow more easily after a slower phase. And here's the Hermit reversed. Wow. Okay, so someone is coming out of their shell. Someone is stepping away from private processing and toward actual contact that matters, because it tells me the silent season is not meant to continue forever. Something here is beginning to tip toward openness. And once that shift happens, I do not think the energy will feel quite the same as it did before. What advice does Spirit have for you right now? Here is the Ten of Cups. Beautiful Spirit is saying, do not put your emotional life on pause while this unfolds. Yes, this matters. Yes, this is meaningful. But your peace, your joy, and your heart still deserve nourishment. Now, let's get another advice card. Here is self-trust. Wow. Yes, and that fits everything. Your main lesson here is not to shut down your feelings. It is to trust what you are feeling without abandoning your clarity. Because sometimes when love is very real, the hardest thing is not feeling it. The hardest thing is allowing yourself to believe your own experience of it. And I feel Spirit is helping you do that now. Let's see what this person would say to you if they could speak from the heart. Here is the first message. I know I have looked at you differently for longer than I admitted. Wow. Yes, that feels very true, because I do not think the shift in them happened yesterday. I think it has been building. Here is another message. Other people could probably see it before I could say it. Wow, yes. And that connects so strongly back to the opening message. I do feel the love has been visible around them, even if you kept questioning it. Here is another. I do not know how to act normal around you because I do not feel normal around you. Wow. And that is very telling because it shows the emotional difference this person experiences when it comes to you. Let's get one more. I think you have felt me the whole time. Yes, and I think that is why your heart has stayed alert, because on some level you were already in conversation with the truth even before it became spoken. So Spirit is saying the next phase comes from hidden feelings stepping into recognition. And once that recognition becomes real enough in the outer world, the whole connection starts moving differently. And I think that is why this next step feels so tender, because it asks you to receive love instead of question it. Okay, let's keep going because I want to look more closely at what is happening inside this person now that the connection is becoming harder to contain. What are they most afraid of if they step fully toward this? Here's the Tower. Wow, yes, this person is afraid of how much changes once they stop pretending their heart is under control, because I do not feel this is light for them. I feel this is the kind of feeling that rearranges priorities, asks for truth, and makes old emotional habits harder to keep. What else are they afraid of? Here is justice. Yes, So there's also fear of accountability. They know that loving someone quietly is not the same thing as standing in that love openly. And I think part of them understands that once they speak more clearly, they will also have to own how long they stayed guarded, indirect, or careful. What do they want most with you now? Here is the lovers. Beautiful. So underneath all the hesitation, what they want is closeness, honesty, and a real choice to be made in the direction of the bond. This is not someone who wants to keep circling forever. I feel they want to know whether this can be met, named, and lived. That matters because it shows me the core is sincere. Yes, they have fears. Yes, they have delayed. Yes, they have stayed contained longer than was ideal. But the center of what they want is not confusion. It is union. What would help this connection unfold in the healthiest way? Here is temperance. Wow, Spirit is saying calm pacing, emotional balance, honest but steady movement. This is not a connection that needs more intensity for intensity's sake. It needs enough space for the truth to land without getting distorted by fear. Let's get another card for what helps. Here's the Three of Pentacles. Yes, grounded effort matters. Consistency matters. Follow through matters. And I feel that is the message to keep watching. Not only what is felt, but what is done with what is felt. Because the whole reading is showing me that the love has been there. The actual question now is whether the love begins to take shape in a way you can rely on. What is the lesson you are meant to take from this phase? Here is the Queen of Swords. Wow, yes, you are learning how to stay open without becoming unclear. You are learning how to believe your heart without abandoning your discernment. And that is such a powerful place to stand. You are not being asked to become colder. You are being asked to become truer to yourself. Because the more truth there is inside you, the more naturally you will recognize truth in someone else when it finally comes toward you. What is the lesson they are meant to take from this phase? Here is the Hanged Man. Yes, this person has had to stop and see the situation from another angle. They could not just keep moving through old patterns on autopilot. The connection itself interrupted that, and I feel that interruption has taught them something important. It has taught them that some feelings do not disappear when you ignore them. Some feelings simply deepen and then eventually ask to be acknowledged. Let's get another card for them. Here is Heart Chakra Beautiful. So I feel they are being guided to live more honestly from the heart, not just feel privately from the heart. That is the actual growth here, not simply loving you, but allowing that love to influence their choices, their words, and the way they carry themselves around you in a more conscious way. Let's see what else they would say to you. I know I have been obvious to everyone except the one person I wanted to understand it most. Wow, yes, that is powerful because I do feel there has been almost an accidental transparency around them. Here is another. I thought keeping it controlled would protect me, but it mostly just made me feel more trapped. Yes, and that feels true too. Fear restraint has not brought peace, it has brought pressure. Here is another. I do not think I can keep acting like this is less than what it is. Wow. Yes, because the emotional reality has become too big to fit into smaller behavior. What are you being asked to remember while all of this unfolds? Here is the Empress. Beautiful Spirit wants you rooted in your worth, your softness, your calm, and your natural ability to receive without chasing. You do not need to prove that you are lovable. You do not need to twist yourself into smaller shapes to make this easier for someone else. You are allowed to stay in your fullness and let the next step meet you there. Let's get one more. Here is the Star. Wow. Yes. So you are being asked to remain open to healing, open to beauty, and open to what can unfold here, but not at the cost of your own peace. Because this connection may be meaningful, but meaningful love should still move toward clarity, not endless confusion. And I feel that is exactly the direction this is starting to take now. All right, let's get deeper into the messages now because I feel there is a lot this person has wanted to say, but has not fully known how to bring out cleanly. Here is the first message. I think other people noticed how I felt before I had the courage to admit it to myself. Wow, yes, that fits the whole reading. Because I do feel this love has been visible in their behavior, even when it was still hidden inside their own conscious mind. Here's another. I kept thinking I was being subtle, but my heart was louder than I realized. Yes, and that feels very accurate. Because sometimes when a person feels deeply, it leaks through in their tone, their gaze, their protectiveness, their awkwardness, or the way they keep being drawn back. Here is another. I did not want to risk losing control around you, so I kept tightening everything up. Wow, yes. That is exactly the kind of emotional containment I have been seeing, not emptiness, not indifference, pressure. Let's get another message. What is most alive in their heart right now? Here's I want you to know that what you have felt from me was real, beautiful. And I think that matters so much because the message is not only about revealing love, it is also about relieving your uncertainty. What are they still hesitant about? Here's the Nine of Wands. Yes, so there is still nervousness in them. They worry about timing. They worry about whether your heart is still as open as it once was. They worry about the possibility that they let too much time pass. Let's clarify the Nine of Wands. Here is the Five of Pentacles. Wow, yes. Another fear is being left outside, being misunderstood, or realizing they waited so long that the opening narrowed and one more. Here is Judgment, beautiful. So the reason the story still moves forward is because the inner call is stronger than the fear. What they need to say has reached a point where silence no longer feels like the safer option. What do they secretly hope for? Here is the Six of Cups. Yes, they hope the sweetness is still there, they hope the emotional thread is still alive, and they hope that when they step closer, they are not meeting a heart that has fully shut. What does Spirit most want you to know about that? Here's the Queen of Wands. Wow, Spirit wants you to remember the strength of your presence. You did not imagine the impression you made. Your energy stayed with them. Your warmth stayed with them. The way you carry yourself stayed with them. Let's get another message from them. Being near you always made my feelings harder to hide. Yes, that feels so true because some connections do not allow people to remain emotionally neutral. They draw things to the surface. Here's another, I think I made it obvious without meaning to. Wow, yes, and that connects directly to the opening message. I feel others could read the emotional truth on them even when you were still trying to decide whether to trust it. What would help this next phase most? Here is the Page of Pentacles. Beautiful Spirit is saying small but honest steps matter more than dramatic declarations with nothing under them. Something simple and sincere goes a long way here. Let's get another card. Here is the Wheel of Fortune. Wow, yes. Timing is shifting, the cycle is turning, and I feel that is why the energy is no longer able to stay where it has been. What was once subtle is moving toward something more visible. Now, what are you being asked to do with that? Here is the Empress and the Queen of Swords. Beautiful softness and clarity together again. You do not need to harden. You do not need to play games. You do not need to guess less. You simply need to remain yourself and let the truth show you what it is. Because once the truth begins to rise, you do not need to chase it. You only need to recognize it. And I feel your heart is more ready for that than maybe you realize. Let's get one more message from their heart. I think the only person I truly hid this from was you because everyone else could already see it. Wow. Yes, and that says everything. The love has not been absent. It has been everywhere, just not fully named to your face. And I feel the next step matters because it changes that. It brings the love out of implication and into acknowledgement. And that shift is what your heart has needed because it lets you stop carrying the entire emotional reading by yourself. Now the truth begins to carry its own weight. And I think that is why this next step feels so tender because it asks you to receive love instead of question it. All right, let's close this out with some final messages because this reading feels like it is bringing an unspoken truth toward a much more visible threshold. Here is the first closing message. I think you were the only one still questioning what everyone else could already see. Wow, yes, that is exactly the heart of this reading. The love has been showing itself in pieces, in gestures, in atmosphere, in attention, and in the way this person could never really hide their emotional orientation towards you. Here's the next message. I know I made it harder for you to believe because I did not say it directly. Yes, and that feels important because the reading is not pretending that subtle signs always feel easy to trust. Sometimes they do not. Sometimes the heart needs clearer language. Here is another one. I have loved you in a quiet way for longer than I let you understand. Wow, yes, that feels very strong because I do not think this is new feeling. I think this is feeling that has been deepening under the surface while the words lagged behind. What does Spirit most want you to remember? Here's the Ten of Cups, beautiful. Spirit wants your heart to know that you are not difficult to love. You are not asking for too much by wanting emotional truth. And you are not foolish for needing clarity instead of trying to survive on hints forever. Let's get another advice card. Here's the Star. Yes, stay open to healing. Stay open to softness. Stay open to the possibility that being loved can become more visible and more understandable now. And let's get one more. Here is the Queen of Swords. Exactly. Hope and clarity together. Warmth and truth together, receiving and discernment together. You do not have to choose between being tender and being wise. What is the highest potential here if both people honor what this connection already is? Here is the Two of Cups and the King of Cups. Beautiful. So the highest potential is mutual feeling meeting emotional maturity. Not just attraction, not just possibility, something deeper, steadier, and more honest that matters. Because it shows me the connection can become less confusing than it has been. The love was already present. What comes next is whether the love becomes more direct, more reliable, and easier for both hearts to stand inside. What would they say to you if no fear and no reserve were left in the way? Here's the first message. I think I loved you so openly in my energy that everyone could read it except you. Wow, yes. And I feel that is because your heart was trying to protect itself from assuming too much. Here is another. I wanted you to know, but I was also scared of what changed once you knew. Yes, and that makes sense because once a person speaks love clearly, the connection becomes more real, and real things ask for more courage. Here is another one. I hope you can finally trust what your heart has been telling you. Beautiful. And that feels like one of the biggest gifts of this whole reading. Not only the love itself, but the confirmation that your inner reading of the connection was not wrong. Let's get one final oracle card. Here is truth. Wow. And here is another received. Beautiful. So I feel the closing energy is very simple. Truth wants to be received now. Not only noticed, not only sensed, received. So the final message I am getting is this. Everyone knows this person loves you except you, but that changes now. It changes because the emotional evidence is becoming harder to dismiss. It changes because the person themselves is getting closer to honesty. And it changes because your own heart is finally becoming more willing to accept what has been trying to reach it. Spirit is also saying this. The next phase is not about teaching yourself to doubt less by force. It is about allowing reality to meet you more clearly, allowing the love to show itself in forms you can actually hold, allowing the truth to stop being scattered around you and start becoming spoken, lived, and undeniable. If you have been wondering whether your heart was inventing this, I feel the answer is no. Your heart has been reading something real. Your caution may have slowed your belief, but it did not make your perception false. And I feel the reason this matters so much is because once you let yourself believe you are loved, you stop reading every sign through the lens of disbelief. For now, stay calm, stay open, stay rooted in your worth. Because the more you do that, the easier it becomes to receive love without resisting it out of old fear. And I feel that may be one of the deepest lessons here, not whether you can love. And here is one final closing message. I think the whole world has been witnessing what I feel for you, and it is time you stop standing outside of it too. Wow, yes, that feels like the ending. The truth has been around you. Now it wants to be inside your conscious heart as well. Here is the first closing message. I think you were the only one still questioning what everyone else could already see. Wow, yes, that is exactly the heart of this reading. The love has been showing itself in pieces, in gestures, in atmosphere, in attention, and in the way this person could never really hide their emotional orientation towards you. Here's the next message. I know I made it harder for you to believe because I did not say it directly. Yes, and that feels important because the reading is not pretending that subtle signs always feel easy to trust. Sometimes they do not. Sometimes the heart needs clearer language. Here is another one. I have loved you in a quiet way for longer than I let you understand. Wow, yes, that feels very strong because I do not think this is new feeling. I think this is feeling that has been deepening under the surface while the words lagged behind. What does Spirit most want you to remember? Here's the Ten of Cups. Beautiful. Spirit wants your heart to know that you are not difficult to love. You are not asking for too much by wanting emotional truth. And you are not foolish for needing clarity instead of trying to survive on hints forever. Let's get another advice card. Here's the star. Yes. Stay open to healing. Stay open to softness. Stay open to the possibility that being loved can become more visible and more understandable now. And let's get one more. Here is the Queen of Swords. Exactly. Hope and clarity together. Warmth and truth together, receiving and discernment together. You do not have to choose between being tender and being wise. What is the highest potential here if both people honor what this connection already is? Here is the Two of Cups and the King of Cups. Beautiful. So the highest potential is mutual feeling meeting emotional maturity. Not just attraction, not just possibility, something deeper, steadier, and more honest that matters. Because it shows me the connection can become less confusing than it has been. The love was already present. What comes next is whether the love becomes more direct, more reliable, and easier for both hearts to stand inside. What would they say to you if no fear and no reserve were left in the way? Here's the first message. I think I loved you so openly in my energy that everyone could read it except you. Wow, yes. And I feel that is because your heart was trying to protect itself from assuming too much. Here's another. I wanted you to know, but I was also scared of what changed once you knew. Yes, and that makes sense because once a person speaks love clearly, the connection becomes more real, and real things ask for more courage. Here is another one. I hope you can finally trust what your heart has been telling you. Beautiful. And that feels like one of the biggest gifts of this whole reading. Not only the love itself, but the confirmation that your inner reading of the connection was not wrong. Let's get one final oracle card. Here is truth. Wow. And here is another received. Beautiful. So I feel the closing energy is very simple. Truth wants to be received now. Not only noticed, not only sensed, received. So the final message I am getting is this. Everyone knows this person loves you except you, but that changes now. It changes because the emotional evidence is becoming harder to dismiss. It changes because the person themselves is getting closer to honesty. And it changes because your own heart is finally becoming more willing to accept what has been trying to reach it. Spirit is also saying this.